Welcome to meeting number 5 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website, so you are aware the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, all those attending the meeting in person are to maintain 2-meter physical distancing, must wear a non-medical mask when circulating the room, and is highly recommended that the mask be worn at all times, including when seated. Must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the provided hand sanitizer at the room entrance. As the chair, I will be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for their cooperation. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. If interpretation is lost, please inform me immediately, and we will ensure interpretation is properly restored before resuming the proceedings. The raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen can be used at any time if you wish to speak or alert the chair. For members participating in the room, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the Board of Internal Economy's guidelines for mask use and health protocols. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the Proceedings and Verification Officer. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. A reminder that all comments by the members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to maintain consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether they are participating virtually or in person. Service standards for employment insurance claim. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Friday, January 28, 2022, the committee will commence its study of service for standards for employment insurance claims. I would like to welcome our witnesses to begin our discussion with 5 minutes of opening remarks followed by questions. They will be from the Department of Employment and Social Development, Cliff Groen, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Mary Crescenzi, Assistant Deputy Minister, Laurie McDonald, Senior Associate Deputy Minister, Elisa Ram, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Peter Littlefield, Chief Information Officer. And I want to thank those witnesses for being able to appear on short notice. We will start with Laurie McDonald for 5 minutes, please. Following the opening statement, I will then open the floor to questions. Ms. McDonald, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Merci de me donner l'occasion de...
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee today. At the outset, I will say that we recognize the difficulties that any delay in the payment of benefits can cause to claimants and their families. This has been a difficult time as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to have an impact on our communities, including economic impacts and job losses. Many Canadians rely on employment insurance to get through these times, and time can be of the essence for them.
EI claims over the pandemic, Service Canada processes the vast majority of claims efficiently and within the service standard. In the past year, Service Canada has exceeded the 80% service delivery target with a rate of 88% processed within 4 weeks. The vast majority of the remaining 12% of files are completed within the following 2 weeks. Unfortunately, sometimes complex claims take more than 6 weeks. This is typically Service Canada's busiest time of the year due to the winter peak of EI claims. That, and unfortunately, a recent surge in the EI claims due to Omicron has caused some delays in processing of EI applications. In fact, for the first 4 weeks of this year, EI claims were 35% higher than forecasted. While the height of the peak period is starting to decline, some service delivery delays are expected to continue throughout the month of February. To deal with the unprecedented volume of EI applications since the beginning of the pandemic, the government has invested an additional $825 million to increase Service Canada capacity. These investments have made a tremendous difference. Since September 2020, Service Canada has paid over 4.4 million beneficiaries a total of $56 billion in EI benefits. And despite these record volumes, 88% of applicants have been paid within the 4 weeks or the 28-day service standard. Furthermore, the capacity of the EI call center has nearly tripled, with approximately 1,100 officers prior to the pandemic to nearly 3,000 officers by the end of March 2021. Our EI call center officers are on track to answer more than 7 million calls by March 31st, 2022. Despite this high volume, there have been peaks where clients have experienced longer wait times. However, from April 1st, 2021 to January 2022, the average wait time is 18.6 minutes. Cela étant dit, Mr.
That said, Mr. Chairman, we are acutely aware that delays in processing applications can cause hardship to claimants and their families. We are prioritizing cases of urgent need, especially situations where claimants have no income. No claimant will lose benefits because of a processing delay.
To review our internal workforce strategies to help us better meet the challenges of the influx of claims due to the pandemic, including both mobilizing thousands of staff across business lines to help with the delivery of EI, as well as hiring new staff throughout this period. We are also pursuing additional ways to streamline claims processing. We have online resources to guide claimants through the process, and Service Canada has proactively reached out to the employer community to reinforce the importance of issuing records of employment in a timely manner. Mr. Chairman, Service Canada takes the integrity of its programs seriously, but the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us that in a time of crisis, there is an increased risk of fraud. From the outset of the pandemic, Service Canada has been actively detecting and preventing fraud in its programs. This week, we are finalizing our rollout of enhanced resources in our call center to help clients whose legitimate claims have been delayed or interrupted because of identity theft. We are also implementing measures to validate the identity of clients more quickly and get benefits to them sooner. To combat the fraudsters who cause financial and emotional harm to innocent Canadians, we are constantly enhancing and prioritizing the security of our benefit programs. In 2020, the government announced it would spend $68.1 million over 4 years on departmental initiatives to protect the integrity of benefit programs. Further, we have more than 1,200 investigators in all regions across Canada dedicated to preventing, detecting, and addressing fraud, error, and abuse in the EI program. We are also significantly increasing the number of investigators dedicated to quickly resolving these cases. In conclusion, Mr. President, Service Canada will continue to work hard every day to get Canadians their benefits in a timely manner. I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. I will now open the floor for questions. For the first round at 6 minutes, Madame Kuzi. Madame Clerk, is Madame Kuzi in person?
Yes, she is. Just 1 second, Mr. Morse, Mr. Chair. questions already? Oh my goodness, okay, all right, sure. Oh, let me know when my time begins. Okay, sure, do I have 5 or 6 minutes, please?
6 minutes, Madame Kuzi.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you very much to the witnesses for coming here today for this important issue. In fact, my team felt that it was so very important because there are certainly Canadians across the country who are suffering significantly as a result of this problem. And it's not only on one account, it's on 2 accounts. The first one being that they were victims of fraud. And I'm certain we've all known about this problem that's existed within our country for some time, but this being another example of it. And then secondly, unfortunately, due to the delays, some of these accounts were frozen. So these individuals, in addition to not having received their money, couldn't even hope for it in a reasonable time frame. So for my team, it was very important that we get the 2 ministers here. But for some reason, the Liberals and the Liberal government, supported by the NDP, who claims that they care very much about their constituents and the highest level of accountability and solving this problem, they worked together, they colluded together. And in fact, I know the Prime Minister has talked about not having an obstructionist agenda, but in fact, the Conservative Party, which I represent, received a majority of the Canadian voters, a majority of votes. So when the other groups are working together, they're actually working against the majority of Canadian voters. So I would like please to ask Ms. MacDonald why she believes that the Liberal government, in being supported by the New Democratic Party, did not want the ministers to appear today. Why does she think that these 2 parties did not, working together against those who were victims, both of the system and of fraud, why does she think that they did not want the ministers here today?
Mr. Chairperson, we are happy to be here at the invitation of the committee and further to the motion passed by the committee last week. And we are happy to answer any questions the honourable members may have for us today.
And that really didn't answer my question. Why do you think that they didn't want the ministers here today? Do you think the ministers understand this issue? Do you think that they have the capacity to understand this issue and that they are aware of all of the particularities around this issue, Ms. MacDonald?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairperson. We actively work with Minister's Office on a weekly basis to provide them information in terms of the status of our EI processing, in fact, all their processing across the systems. On a weekly basis, the Minister challenges us to make sure that we are serving Canadians to the best of our ability in the most effective and efficient way, and in fact, including looking at additional resources, including at streamlining our processes, using analytics to further enhance the processes that we're using, and to realign staff and resources as necessary to take on any delays that we see in the system to ensure that people are getting their benefits in a timely fashion.
Oh, okay, that may be so, Ms. MacDonald, but still, they through their team here decided not to be here today. So do you think the ministers understand the gravity of this situation, that there are people in this pandemic who have been victims of fraud, first of all, but also who need their benefits at the most dire of times? Do you think the ministers understand the gravity of this situation, Ms. MacDonald?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I can reassure the committee members that, in fact, the ministers are seized with this issue. We talk about it on a weekly basis. We talk about fraud-related issues. We talk about operational impact issues. The minister challenges us on an ongoing basis to ensure that we're doing everything we can to decrease delays, to look at processing efficiencies, and to understand those pain points that are in the system that actually impact individual clients on a day-to-day basis. We continue to provide those updates, and we continue to look at measures to improve those services.
So they're seized with this issue, and yet they, through their team, made the decision not to be here today, to be accountable for that.
Chair, point of order, please. Point of order.
Point of order.
Chair, this line of questioning is extremely unfair to officials, number one. And number two, this is an important issue that we're all seized with. We have officials here trying to get answers from the officials with regards to challenges that are in the system. And, you know, I would remind the member also that, you know, they lost a seat in the last election. They lost a seat. They went backwards, not us. And
we actually gained four in your region,
Chair,
Mr. Long. We gained four in your region.
Chair,
Madam Long,
Chair,
Long, Mr. Long, Madam Kuzi, yeah, we'll stick to questions on the motion. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. As I indicated, we meet with the ministers on a weekly basis. We provide updates in terms of our processing efficiencies. And in fact, I would just want to restate to my opening comments, we are currently processing our EI claims above the current process of standard of 80% for this cycle. And in fact, we are processing at 88% for the entire year. And we continue to look for efficiencies in that regard. The vast majority of our claims are done and completed in the appropriate time, 4 weeks. The majority, about 88%. The majority of the 12% are processed within 6 weeks. There are claims, though, that are very complex. There are claims.
Okay, but Ms. McDonald, you said that the ministers were seized with this issue. Did they come to you? Because I've worked in a minister's office. I've worked in the public service.
Madam Kuzi,
no, it's not. I'm at 5:48, and the point of order took time out, and I would actually like the clerk to verify that, please.
Madam Clerk.
I'm at 6:02 right now.
How can that be, considering Mr. Long had a point of order in the middle of that, and I've been...
Okay, Madam Kuzi, conclude your question. Continue with your question and conclude it, please.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McDonald, they say they're seized with the issue, so I want to know, did they come to you and give you a specific directive as to this issue specifically? Because I've worked in a minister's office. I've also worked as a public servant. And so I want to know if the ministers themselves came and gave this directive to you to solve this problem as soon as possible. They gave you a time frame, and then as well, they had you assured that this will not happen again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzi. We'll now move, because your time is concluded, to Mr. Collins for 6 minutes. Mr. Collins?
Yep, thanks, Mr. Chairman. And first and foremost, I think we should thank Madame Chabot again for raising this issue. We all know that government supports, irrespective of what level of government is providing it, government supports are important for people, whether they're on a temporary basis or a permanent basis. And so the fact that this is our first study, I think, is important, and we should thank Madame Chabot again for bringing it forward. And I think just based on the last line of questioning, we should remind everyone that it wasn't unanimous to get us here today. There were two parties, actually, that supported the motion on Friday, and that was the Liberals and the NDP. And so we see it as priorities, and my line of questions will certainly get at that. If I could, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the witnesses and whoever chooses to answer it, how has staff transitioned the delivery of EI services to clients during the pandemic, and how has that impacted the delivery of service over the last 2 years? Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. I'll begin the answer, and then I'll turn to my colleague, Mr. Groen, to respond as well. We have, over the course of the pandemic, actually flipped our workforce from 100%, for the most part, place-based to almost 85% virtual and telework. And we've been able to, during that time, from a continuity perspective, continue to deliver services to Canadians across all of our business lines. As we are here today to talk about EI, I'm going to ask Mr. Groen to speak to this issue in terms of what we've been able to put into place.
Thank you, Laurie. So to further add to the response, over the past 2 years, $825 million has been invested in the delivery of the employment insurance program, both for the timely processing of applications, as well as to nearly triple the size of our EI call center. We've been able to do that work virtually almost all of our staff who are involved in the direct processing and answering calls for our clients are able to work remotely. We've been able to transition as of April 2020. We had moved toward that. And in addition, over the course of the pandemic, different simplification measures had been introduced related to the delivery of EI, which helped us ensure that we were able to timely process these applications as well as answer clients' questions. Thank you.
Thank you for those answers. And through you, Mr. Chairman, if I could, several media reports have referenced fraud and or hacking and the impact on clients and the theft of possibly their identity. Could you speak to how you've maintained security in the transition services that you just referenced? How have we protected our clients who have submitted personal information, and what level of security have you invested in, and what level of fraud have you realized through the security initiatives that you've put in place?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. We have invested significant amount of money, the $68.1 million I referenced earlier, in terms of fraud activities, but at the same time, we've worked very closely with other organizations and partner agencies to assist us in terms of combating those particular fraud issues. I'll ask Mr. Littlefield to comment on this question, please.
Thanks very much, Laurie, and thanks for the question. So just to further Laurie's remarks, since the beginning of the pandemic, there is no question that we have noticed an uptick in attempts at fraud and fraud against our services, as has been the case around the world. We have made some significant changes from a cybersecurity perspective to our systems that serve Canadians, putting in place additional measures to validate the identity of clients who are coming in to receive benefits and to detect any fraudsters or attempted fraudsters who are trying to take advantage of the systems that we have. These aren't perfect measures, but they have resulted in our ability to detect and repel fraud attempts in a better way than we had before, even recognizing that there has been a significant increase throughout the pandemic. There are further measures that will be put in place over time as we continue to evolve our responses in response to the way that fraudsters continue to evolve around the world.
And thank you. And through you, Mr. Chairman, if I still have time, if I could ask then, in terms of you've provided an update in terms of security measures that have been implemented through the first 2 years of the pandemic. What's the vision for 2022 and beyond? What are you looking at right now in terms of investments to protect clients and the personal information that they provide when they apply for EI?
So if I can further, Mr. Chair, thanks very much for that question. Going forward, recognizing that this is not going to stop, that the negative activities of fraudsters around the world will continue, we are continuing to make plans and invest in further measures going forward. There is a large focus on the identity of our clients, recognizing that the major challenge we have here is identity theft around the world, in Canada and around the world. We need better and stronger ways to know for certain who the clients are that are coming to obtain services from us and to validate that they are who they say they are. So our continued measures going forward are to strengthen our identity proofing and the management of credentials, usernames, passwords, things like that for clients who are coming in to obtain our services. We work with our security partners as well. It is not just Service Canada or ESDC. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, Shared Services Canada, others, including the Canada Revenue Agency, have significant efforts underway to continue to improve our anti-fraud and cybercrime type measures going forward. So there are many more measures to come.
Thank you, Mr. Littlefield. Mr. Collins, your 6 minutes is up. We will now go to Madame Chabot. And I would just ask the panelists, the members of the committee, to identify which members of the panel are you directing to. Madame Chabot, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. McCullen, for your testimony. We are very happy to have you, but it would have been opportune to hear the minister today. I think it is unfortunate that the Liberal Party and the NDP opposed this motion to hear the minister, which would have been very important for the beneficiaries. This morning in La Presse, Mr. Bellavance says that Mr. Gold is announcing some solutions for identity theft. That's why we think that ministers should be held accountable, and they could have come here to give us an update. So, Mrs. McDonald, have listened to you, but I have two questions. When did the two ministers, when were they seized of the situation, and when did you brief them on these important issues? And my second question is very specific. You're talking about service standard, the situation today, and that's about the delays that are not new. Some of the beneficiaries have been waiting for months. So how many files do you have that are outside this service standard? We hear that it could be tens of thousands. So when did the ministers, the responsible ministers, were briefed on this situation about these long waits, and how many files are out of the service standards? Because it's been a long time since we've been talking about this.
I'm going to break this question down to three parts, and I'll turn to Mr. Groen at the end to give Madame Chabot some statistics. To begin, the minister has been seized with this from the very beginning. In the fall, she met with us on the challenges associated with delivering services, our benefit delivery services to Canadians. We meet with her on a weekly basis to provide her updates. She challenges us in terms of how are we able to ensure that more people are processed within the timeline of the 28 days or the 4 weeks. She's challenged us in terms of looking at various solutions, including, as an example, hiring additional staff, which we have done, that we have staff come on literally on a monthly basis so that we can train and put them into these very important key processing areas. We continue to brief her on a weekly basis, and at each one of those briefings, she has very serious conversations with us in terms of what more we can do to deliver these services to the Canadians. That includes things like hiring, realigning resources, doing deep dive analysis into particular areas. So as an example, in the Quebec region, she raised the issue of fraud with us last fall, concerned about that. As a result, we went out to hire additional resources, particularly for Quebec. In fact, next week, we should be onboarding 105 new additional investigators for Quebec as it relates to identity theft, so that we can more efficiently validate those claims to get people back into pay. So the minister is very seized with this issue. Unfortunately, as I said in my opening comments, we are experiencing delays because we had two very difficult events happen at the same time. Winter peak season that happens from late November till now, and then Omicron. And unfortunately for the region of Quebec, when it locked down on December 19th, all of those things came together to dramatically increase the volumes of claim. In fact, they were, as I said, 36% higher.
But my question was how many files? Thank you very much, but I think we are all aware of the context. However, we know about these higher numbers in December and January, but I would like to have an exact number. So how many files, not a percentage number, no, how many files exceed the service standard?
Ask Mr. Groen to come in on that question.
Merci beaucoup et merci.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Chair. Just like Laurie mentioned, in the past 6 weeks, there has been many more requests. We have received many more files than usual. It's much more than in normal times. In the past weeks, we received 189,000 new claims. And for a period of 4 weeks, we have received more than 100,000 claims per week. It's not normal, it's unusual, and it has an impact on the delivery of our services. However, during this time, we were able to process most claims. And right now, we can meet our goal of 4 weeks regarding processing times. And we said that in 88% of cases, it's true. And then the remaining 12%.
Mr. Groen, the time has concluded. Madame Chabot, your time is concluded. We will now go to Madame Zarillo for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank you to Ms. McDonald and the staff that she's brought with her today. We all agree that the beneficiaries need their entitlements, so I'm just going to direct my questions towards the fraud and account lockouts. My question is, when will people that have been victims waiting over the 4-week expectation receive their benefits? And is there a unique liaison number for those complex call applicants to reach out to? And if so, what is that telephone number?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. I'll begin the question and I'll turn to my colleague, Mary Crescenzi, to provide some additional information. I think it's important from a context perspective to understand what we're talking about here in terms of pure numbers. So Mr. Groen gave some examples of numbers that we've received over the last several weeks, but grosso modo, during the past year, we've processed hundreds of thousands of claims. Currently in our inventory, we have approximately 10,000 cases that would be identified under that umbrella of fraud. Of those 10,000 cases, about 2,000 of those cases would be what we would call urgent in terms of clients in dire need who have contacted us. Those cases will be resolved in the next 2 weeks, given the additional resources that we've put in place over the last number of weeks and the triage that we've been doing in those cases. I would also say it's important to recognize that fraudsters are very bold people. They actually contact us pretending to be clients because they do have information pertaining to those clients. So it's not as simplistic always as a one phone call resolution. So because we have to balance not re-victimizing those clients and at the same time verifying their information, they're not always resolved in one day, although most are. Of those 2,000 I referenced in terms of urgent need, as I indicated, they'll be resolved in the next 2 weeks. But beyond that, we are also triaging those additional cases, of which some of those will be fraudulent as well. And we continue to work through those identity pieces to resolve the situation. I'll ask Mary Crescenzi to provide any additional information.
Thank you so much, Deputy, and hello, everyone. As you know, Service Canada balances the protection of the public fund from fraudsters, while at the same time, we understand the priority of putting real clients into pay as quickly as possible. As our Deputy indicated, we are working with a number of clients that have been the victims of fraud as a result of their credentials being either stolen or compromised through the private sector or financial institutions. These are not unusual sets of circumstances. Unfortunately, these days, we have heard from the International Public Sector Fraud Forum that these activities are happening across the country. In support of those that are most in need, the 2,000 that our deputy indicated, we are redirecting our staff to focus on contacting these clients immediately and working through those issues. We hope, and it really is a case-by-case basis, but the straightforward cases we will be able to address during the conversation of the second level and third level assurance questions that we will need to have answered appropriately. Unfortunately, there are more complex cases where there may be cases where the fraudster is trying to represent a legitimate client, and we will have to work that through as well. We are also developing and have introduced later on this week a dedicated team at the call center that will be taking on those calls and will move the conversation of verifying identity right at the first point of contact to expedite addressing those concerns. We are also hiring those additional resources in the Quebec region. They are starting imminently, and they will be able to bolster our capacity. Unfortunately, the Quebec region has seen a disproportionately a larger number of impacted cases of fraud associated to compromised and stolen identities, but we have a dedicated action plan that has all of these activities coming to bear quickly and in a timely way to offset those impacts as quickly as possible.
Those are all my questions to Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madame Zarrillo. We will now move into the second round, and for 5 minutes, Mr. Ruff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks to the witnesses for coming today. I guess my first point would just be, I've had constituents reaching out with issues with the 30-day standard, since last summer for ultimate or different reasons. But I just say 100% of the constituents that have reached out to me are all ones that were not resolved in the 30-day resolution period and standard. My questions are going to focus on just getting some facts around the scope of this challenge and this issue that's ongoing. So I think my first question is likely best addressed to Mr. Grohan. Can you please provide the committee with the exact number of not exact, approximate number of EI cases that were failed to be resolved during the 30-day target in 2021? So just the number.
Certainly. So as of, just give me 1 second. Thank you for the question. We have received 3.1 million applications over the course of the current fiscal year. 88% of those have been processed within the service standard of 28 days. So therefore, 12% of the about 3 million have not been processed within that 28-day service standard. So if you to do the simple math, it'd be about 300,000. However, I would stress that the vast majority of those individuals that are not processed within the 4-week service standard are processed within 6 weeks. It is extremely rare. It will happen, but it is extremely rare that someone would not have their application processed within 6 weeks. And those situations are dealt with.
Thanks, Mr. Grohan. That was the answer to my question. Over 300,000 Canadians impacted. How many EI claimants have experienced payment disruptions due to these hacked accounts?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair. I'll jump in first here and just say, to be very clear, Service Canada accounts have not been hacked. These issues in terms of identity and fraud are a result of people's information being stolen or breached through the private sector or financial institutions. As I said in the beginning a few minutes ago, we have about right now 10,000 cases in our inventory. We don't know how many of those are legitimate and how many of those are actually fraudster cases. And
perfect.
Of those,
thanks, Ms. McDonald. That answers the question. And you're saying 2,000 are still frozen and need to be resolved, if I heard your testimony earlier correctly?
That's correct.
All right, so how is ESDC communicating with the EI claimants whose accounts have been frozen or whose payments have been disrupted due to this hacking? Is this by email? Is this by phone call? What are the processes?
Yeah, I'll ask Mary Crescenzi to come in, but yes, by phone call and by email. Mary?
Thank you, Deputy. Yes, you are right. In order to ensure and not feed additional information into the hands of potential fraudsters, we are reaching out ourselves directly with the clients that are impacted, that have declared or have reached out and having an issue. We ask specific questions that move up to next level assurances so that we can determine that they are who they say they are, because the last thing we want to do is to contribute to refrauding.
Yep.
So
thanks.
the procedures are very clear.
Perfect. So I think if I heard correctly, witnesses have testified that additional resources were required. I did hear that 105 new investigators for Quebec alone. I guess two parts to this question is how long does it take to train an investigator? And part two of that is, when was the minister provided the plan to address these shortfalls and challenges, especially considering there's an annual peak? What date was the minister briefed?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairperson. As I indicated earlier, we brief the minister on a weekly basis. These conversations started last fall. It does take some time to train investigators. So as we were hiring new staff, that started last fall. We hire, it's obviously more difficult.
Approximately how much time to train? 30 days, 60 days?
I'll ask Mary to respond to that question.
Training would take over 2 to 4 week time period to have an investigator be able to start their work, but continuous training, of course, so that they can become more and more experienced. We are also, as we are shifting some of the call center resource staff to help alleviate some of these pressures directly with clients as they're coming in. That training is about a day's time, because we are able to train individuals that already know employment insurance well. And
Thank
those
you.
procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Ruth. We will now go for 5 minutes to Mr. Coteau. Mr. Coteau.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I wanted to start by thanking Madame Chabot for taking initiative to speak to this issue and bringing it to this committee. I think that this is a very serious issue, and the fact that we're here with the experts within the system discussing this issue, government employees, bureaucrats that have been working tirelessly for the last 2 years during COVID, trying to look for ways to ease tension within the system for citizens. And the associate deputy minister, started off by talking about the hardships and prioritizing and of clients, and I can tell that there's been a lot of effort put forward to look for ways to mitigate fraud in the system. Even just seeing that 3.1 million applications and 7 million calls. Can you hear me? Okay, there's some background noise. Yeah. So my question to the associate minister, deputy minister, is what initiatives have been put forward to further look for ways to reduce the fraud within the system? I know that there's been money that's been allocated to fight against fraud, but what other initiatives have been put in to mitigate fraud within the system over the course of the 2 years?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I'll ask Mr. Littlefield to respond to this question, please.
Thanks, Laurie, and thanks very much for the question. So a number of measures have been put in place.
Notify Michael to sound.
Pardon me?
Sorry, no, continue. Okay, my apologies. Since the beginning of the pandemic, as we've noticed that the instances of fraud and attempted fraud have gone up, a number of measures have been put in place. They have focused a great deal on identity proofing and strengthening. We've also uplifted some of our cyber protection measures. For example, we've put in place a requirement for clients to authenticate with more than one factor to connect to our services. This is typical in the financial industry, and many would recognize it as needing a message to your cell phone to enter a code back so that we have an extra measure of assurance that people connecting are who they say they are. We have also taken steps to simplify the means for clients to prove their identity to us through simplified measures. so that it is easier for them to establish themselves as legitimate clients so that we can recognize them when they connect. Further measures, as I said, will be put in place over a period of time.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. When the Associate Deputy Minister was speaking, or one of the officials, there was an explanation of the system, the way in which fraud is being committed. It sounded like it wasn't specifically based on the manipulation of the technology within the system, or the system being hacked, but it was more around identity theft and folks who are committing this fraud really getting their hands on someone's identity and putting in an application on their behalf and redirecting the funds back to another bank account. Is that correct? And if so, can you just explain how this process works, and just so committee members know that this is not the fault of a breach within the government system, but rather external forces manipulating personal data?
So, if good, I'm happy to respond, Mr. Chair. So the question's quite correct. The general method that we are seeing for these attacks is that there have been data or privacy breaches at other institutions in the private sector or the financial sector in the past, where large volumes of Canadians' personal information has been stolen from those organizations. The fraudsters obtain this information on the internet through back channels. This contains usernames, passwords, often social insurance numbers, often personal information of Canadians like addresses and things like that. And the fraudsters use that information to attempt to get into legitimate client accounts inside our systems in order to obtain benefits. In many cases, if clients use the same usernames and passwords as they do in other institutions, then there may be a way for fraudsters to get in. So that's the general nature.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chair,
Mr.
do I have more
Couture?
time, or
No,
any more
your
time? My
has
time's
gone
up.
by.
Thank you so much to the witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Couture. Mr. Littlefield, we'll go now for 2.5 minutes to Madame Chabot. Madame Chabot, you have the floor.
Merci. Thank you. I want to ask you for answers, solutions. I don't think people realize how this issue is huge. We're talking about 300,000 people for whom it could take more than 6 weeks. If you've been talking to the minister since the fall, we haven't felt in the House that the ministers seem to understand how urgent it is. There are claimants who have been waiting for 6 or 8 months and don't get any benefits. So it is the regular volume of benefit claimants. So they don't get answers. We're told that their file is not urgent enough. In Quebec, we have been sounding the alarm. We've been saying that these claimants are victims. So what are you going to do in the short term to reduce this number? What are you going to do to hire more people, to train them so that you don't have to answer, that unfortunately they will have to wait longer? It doesn't make sense for these people. They're human beings. So what solutions do you have so that you can respond to this emergency?
So I would just maybe put a context on a couple of things. It is very, very rare for a client to wait 6 months to have their case resolved. In fact, each week we do analysis on what we have in our inventories to work from our most outdated to the most recent to ensure that those cases are not floundering. So from a pure numbers perspective, Cliff mentioned that we have 3.1 million EI claims this year. Right now in our inventory, there are about 200 at the 6-month mark. Those are mostly fraudulent cases. So the vast majority of claimants are getting processed within the 4 weeks, and the rest, the vast majority, within 6 weeks. We completely appreciate and understand that those people that are waiting, that's not acceptable. So as a result of that, we've done a number of things to try to process those more quickly. We have triaging processes in place. We put an alternative service delivery model in place where people can actually go online and contact us either through a phone call that we call back or an application online. They quickly fill out and we call them directly so they don't have to come into a Service Canada Centre or leave the comfort of their home. We're able to actually help them fill out the application online.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Probably we could follow up with that with another question.
Je peux me permettre, là, je connais très bien les services de...
I know the triage.
Non, mais ça répond pas. Ça répond pas à la question.
But I didn't get an answer. There's no reason not to respond to these problems.
Madame Zarrillo for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say how important this conversation is to the residents in my community, but also to the caseworkers and the MP offices that are receiving calls. So I really appreciate all this information we're getting today. I wanted to revisit one from Ms. Crescenzi. Thank you for your comments earlier, very informative. And I just wanted to get some clarification on this dedicated team, the timing. You said it was coming very quickly. If I could get that. And then I also wanted to ask, and I'm not sure if it's Ms. McDonald or even if this is possible, but to be able to get some information for proactive education in the community around identity fraud. I think the situation that we're in, that many of these EI EI recipients that have been frauded is very, very, very sad and can be devastating to their lives. And I'd like us to be able to proactively get ahead of that in the constituency. So anything you can do there would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I'll go first and then I'll flip it over to Mary. Just 2 important things. Thank you very much for the question. We actually do have a regional inquiries unit in place for MPs to access. We have a standard practice to return those calls within 48 hours, and we do that at 99.5% of the time. So please, I encourage everyone, we never want to see someone suffering and going with these issues in terms of their claim not being processed. Reach out to that regional inquiry unit. In fact, I've asked my team in the Quebec region at the direction of the minister to make sure that we're reaching out to all MPs in Quebec to help them with these cases that are coming to them to try and resolve these issues more expediently. So the regional inquiry unit is there to help and to help triage some of these issues. We also use the Cybersecurity Center that has significant products in terms of education on cybersecurity, and we'd be very happy to share with the committee those contacts in terms of being able to get educational products. And I'll flip it over to Mary.
Thank you so much. I'll answer the question in regards to the dedicated team, and I would say that we have 2 layers of dedicated teams. One is associated to a newly formed dedicated team that will be stood up this week in the call center. And that is in regards to being able to, when a situation occurs that the individual on the line is saying that they're facing with identity fraud, or we see a flag on the system that indicates that there is an issue with their file, then that call will be warm transferred over to a dedicated team that we are training now to be able to ask those 2nd or 3rd level assurance questions that normally would have had my team calling back. At the same time, we are almost doubling the resources in Quebec region, where we are seeing disproportionate representation of these types of activities occurring, where we will be able to as we had said earlier, reach out to those that are most in need, to respond in the next 2 weeks to those 2,000 that had been identified as urgent requirement, and then continue to work through the volume that we're seeing with this expanded capacity.
Thank you. That concludes, Madame Zarello, your 2.5 minutes. Before, there's still two 5-minute slots on the second round, one for the Conservative Party, one for the Liberal Party, but we're reaching our 1 hour. Unless there's objection from the committee, I would go to Mr. Genereux and then Madame Ferrata for their 2 5-minute rounds, if that's okay with the committee. Okay, I see a thumbs up. So given that there's no objection from the witness, I will now go to Mr. Genereux for 5 minutes, and then we'll conclude with Madame Ferrata for 5. So Mr. Genereux, the floor is yours for 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate no objection to allowing me to speak to this. So I'm hoping to get to about 4 questions here quickly, but repayments is a big issue in my riding of Edmonton Riverbend. Many people who've lost their job due to COVID, applied for benefits, are now facing serious repercussions. People who have been properly submitting their information on a monthly basis and providing all necessary updates are being severely punished by Service Canada's mistakes. And to say 48 hours as a callback time, honestly, like, these are people in their most desperate time of need to not even that 2% that weren't able to get that 48-hour callback when they reach out to the members of Parliament office. In my opinion, it's unacceptable. So hoping we can reduce that amount to a shorter hourly period for our offices. Many students in my riding have been asked to return their benefits, and they even received, though they followed every proper step along the way. Mr. Groen said that it takes about 6 weeks. In many cases, ours are at about 3 to 4 months. So my 4 questions, I'll go in order and hopefully get through all of them. How many cases is Service Canada now reviewing and currently seeking repayment from? Probably Ms. McDonald might be best to answer that.
Actually, I'll refer this to Mr. Groen.
Thank you. I do not have that information directly available with me, but I'd be happy to provide it subsequently to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Groen. Question 2. As of today, how much money is Service Canada trying to collect from Canadians from payments that should not have been approved?
Thank you for the question. Again, we will come back to the committee in terms of that.
Okay, question 3. How many of these reimbursements have been reconsidered and waived by Service Canada?
Again, Mr. Chairman, we don't have that information with us today for the purposes of this committee, but we can provide that information through a subsequent submission to the committee.
And final question, Mr. Chair, is Service Canada at all considering not collecting these funds?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say that overall the government has a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility in terms of debt repayment. We do that with our colleagues at CRA, and there are very specific policies and guidelines in terms of that debt recovery. I would just say that we've been very clear in terms of debt recovery that our first and foremost tactic is to notify of a debt and then to work with the client to repay that over time. There is no requirement to do that in immediate fashion. In fact, each individual case we work with to determine what they're able to pay back and over what period of time and what amount, as we obviously understand that people have different financial circumstances and different financial needs. But as I said, the other three pieces of information will provide to the committee.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Maybe I'll be a little bit more direct. Have there been discussions with the minister, with your supervisors, deputy minister, in terms of not collecting these funds?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. We have constant conversations with respect to collection of debt. It could be anything from how we collect the debt, what the communication messages are on collecting debt, what impacts there are across different populations in terms of collecting debt. So prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic, there are always conversations about the collection of debt and how we actually do that for the government overall.
Mr. Chair, I'll cede my time. However, do look forward to receiving a lot of those first three questions, and I'd even say that the fourth question, getting some answers in a relatively quick fashion, because I know these are questions that we're hearing directly from my constituents in the Edmonton Riverbend day after day. And with respect to my caseworker and caseworkers across the country, I think there's many of them that would love to hear the answers to these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Genero. Your time is just about concluded anyhow. We'll now, to conclude, Madame Ferrata for 5 minutes. And Ms. Crescenzi, if you're answering a question, would you lift your mic? It's popping the interpreter. Yes. Okay, thank you. Madame Ferrata for 5 minutes.
Oui, merci. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a very important issue. Just like my colleague Ms. Chabot said, and I believe that other people today mentioned it, I believe that there is an imbalance regarding this issue in Quebec, and in my riding, many of my constituents called me. So I would like to go back to what Ms. McDonald said. You said that there will be other resources that will be added, and you have found other solutions as well. But I'm a bit confused regarding the number of people who are waiting, be it people who were victims of fraud or people who are waiting to see if they will be receiving EI benefits. So could you be a bit clearer? So what will be the plan at the department to make sure that there will be concrete solutions? What are the numbers right now? And when you say that you will find other ways to reduce the wait times, what are you talking about? Because just like Mr. Genero said earlier, as an MP, I receive calls and I want to give answers quickly to my constituents. So I think it would be very interesting for us to know what's the concrete plan of the department. So it would be great to have a bit more answers.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairperson. I'll start off and then I'll ask my colleague Cliff Rowan to answer as well. As it relates to the very specific issue of fraud, as we indicated earlier, we have right now in our inventory about 10,000 cases, of which we know that around 2,000 of those are in urgent requirements. So we have hired additional investigators to assist with those cases. We have realigned resources within the department to do those investigations, and we have trained additional staff to take calls very specific to identity fraud to assist in unlocking those cases in a very quick basis. We will have the vast majority, if not all of those 2,000 resolved in the next 2 weeks, but we will continue to triage those additional cases because every day we get new cases. We will also continue to hire new staff to help us with those cases. In terms of processing, we have identified and hired additional staff for call center, additional staff for processing. At the same time, we've streamlined our internal processes to take pain points out of the system to create more efficiencies. We use data analytics. We use interventions in terms of robiotics, and we also look at changing our caseload so that we can actually process cases across the country, regardless of where the client is. These are just some of the things that we've put in place to ensure more efficient processing of our EI claims. And I'll ask Mr. Groen if you would like to add anything.
Merci, Laurie.
Thank you, Laurie. A few important points. First of all, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've seen an increase in claims, but we were able to deliver benefits within 30 days in 88% of the cases. Before the pandemic, it was more or less 80%. We know that some people are waiting more, but most claims are processed very quickly. To date, we've received more or less 3.1 million EI claims, and we already processed 2.9 million claims. Right now, 200,000 claims are being processed, and it includes claims we've received last week. So we're doing all we can to solve any problems that exist. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. People are giving us two numbers. Can I keep going, Mr. Chair?
To the end, you have 5 seconds.
Okay. Est-ce qu'on pourrait
Well, could we get to the numbers that you just gave us? So during the pandemic, before the pandemic, so that we could compare the situation right now with the situation before the pandemic. It would be great to have real numbers on which we can support ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Ferrata. That concludes the first part of the committee
Mr.
meeting.
Chair.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you so much to all of the witnesses who are here today and for...
Madame Kuzi.
Yes.
Madame Kuzi, you do not have the floor.
Okay, I thought you recognized me when you said yes. Pardon me.
No. Sorry, we concluded this part of the meeting.
Yeah, you did say yes, Mr. Chair. So I do believe when you said yes, that was recognizing... me in having the floor, but you said yes, then what was the yes an indicator to, Mr. Chair?
No, I did not indicate that you had the floor, Madame Kuzi.
Well, actually, can we go back and check, Madame Clerk, then, what the yes was an indicator to? Because I believe the yes was an indication that I had the floor. I don't understand, because I said something, and you said yes, and so to me, that was an indication that I had the floor.
Sorry, no, Madame Kuzi, I did not. We were concluding the meeting, and I indicated that I was moving to thank the witnesses. I was clear on who we would have the two last lines of questioning. So I want to proceed with thanking.
Okay, well then, may I have the floor after you conclude thanking the witnesses?
No, we're concluding.
Okay, why can't I have? You did say yes. Why can't I have the floor after we thank the witnesses?
Madame Kuzi. Could we be respectful here to the proceedings? I was very clear on how we were going to proceed. We know the rules and going. I identified the two last questioners and the time they had. I thanked Madame Ferrata and indicated that concluded. And I was moving to thank the witnesses for their time coming in and appearing, for their thoughtful evidence before the committee. And we will now move to suspend while we move to the second part for...
Mr. Chair, I have something to say before we conclude, please.
Madame Kuzi, do you have a motion?
No, I do not have a motion.
And Madame Kuzi, you do not have the floor.
Okay, I do have a motion.
What's the motion?
Well, I was hoping to move, perhaps, that we could conduct the second part of our meeting in public. Everyone has worked very hard on presenting their motions regarding studies to the committee. It's just clear all parties have put considerable time and thought into this. And so I was just hoping that our constituents and Canadians could see the hard work we've put into preparing these motions and the clearness and the transparency with which we're going to have the discussion to determine the studies which we will be undertaking. So that was my motion, please, Mr. Clerk, was to move to have the second part of our meeting in public, please.
The committee members have heard the motion. I will put it to a vote, a recorded vote. So I would ask the clerk to confirm the motion that was put forward by
I'm sorry,
Madame
Mr.
Kuzi.
Chair, I had my hand raised before you talked about calling the vote. If I just had I wanted some clarification.
Okay, I do not, Madam Clerk, I do not see somebody with a hand raised motion or with their hand raised from those that are present in the committee room, so you will have to confirm that to me.
Ms. Rilla has her hand up.
Yeah, I do. So there's a couple of, so that introduces another thing that we should talk about. But the reason that I raised my hand was just on standing orders. We do have an outstanding motion on standing orders that deals with times that we can go in camera, and I would welcome a discussion around that standing order. We don't have one right now, if it's my understanding, and maybe I should get some clarification on that. We have not resolved in standing orders how we're going to deal with in camera. So maybe that. And then the second thing that has just come forward, and it's procedural, it just has to do with the raising of hands. I see that there's 5 of us in committee here today, and the chair is not able to see us raise our hand in order. So we need to determine how we are going to be recognized in a hybrid format for speaking order. But that only just came up just based on what happened. But first of all, if I could get some clarity on the standing orders for in camera, that would be great.
I'm going to ask the clerk to explain the motion of Madame Kuzi. It's a dilatory motion. It has to be voted on right away. So, Madame Clerk, am I correct on that?
Yes, you are, Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
Yes, you are correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Then we will go to vote on the motion of Madame Kuzi. Madam Clerk, so that everybody is clear of what they are voting on.
I'm raising my hand again, Mr. Chair.
No, the vote has been called, Madame Zarillo. We have to move to the vote. It's a dilatory motion.
Mr.
But so, Madam Clerk, just before we go to the vote, so that everybody's clear on what they're voting on. So could you repeat to the committee the motion they're voting on?
The motion is the committee sit in public. Mr. Long?
No.
Mr. Coteau?
No.
Mr. Collins?
Nope.
Mr. Van Bynen?
No.
Madame Martinez Ferrada?
No.
Mr. Generou?
Definitely yes.
Ms. Kuzi?
In favor.
Mr. Benson? Mr. Benson? See your thumbs up. Thank you, Mr. Benson. Mr. Ruff?
In favor.
Madame Chabot?
Pour.
Ms. Zarillo?
I mean, I just find myself in a really difficult position because I have a long history of voting in favor of things like this, and I would like to be able to vote in favor of something like this, but I'm not clear on how a motion comes from the floor and takes precedent over a motion that's been sitting since the middle of December, which is addressed
Président,
the
j'ai
same.
aucune traduction de ce que dit le collègue.
There was no translation.
When we get translation corrected, I will ask the clerk to explain to Madame Zarillo.
Je veux qu'elle reprenne du début parce qu'il n'y a eu aucune traduction.
Madam Clerk is correct.
So could we start again because there was no French translation?
The translation appears to be working, Mr. Chair.
Okay, could you then, Madam Clerk, explain to Madame Zarillo why we're voting on this motion?
Ms. Cirillo, we're currently on a vote for the committee sit in public. I do understand that you did move a motion in December 13th in regards to in-camera proceedings. The motion was adjourned at that point in time, but you may resume that debate on the motion at any point in time. Should you do it this afternoon, you can resume the debate this afternoon during committee business if you would like to do that, or any time.
Just another question, and I really apologize to my colleagues around the table. This is important procedural, so I hope I can get some clarity. So I just want to understand fully that a motion can come from the floor with no notice at any point in time in procedure, regardless of topic. Is that correct?
Madam Clerk?
You may move a motion in committee business. Otherwise, if you require 48-hour notice.
Je veux pas faire de procédure.
I don't want to talk about procedure, but I can tell you that last Friday I was told that when the vote had been called, and I see that we're starting the debate again, so I don't understand that you can allow this.
The clerk will conclude the vote. We're in a vote. I will not accept any more discussion until the vote is concluded. Madam Clerk.
Ms. Cirillo? Ms. Cirillo?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that, please?
My vote is yes to have the vote.
Committee sit in public?
Yeah.
Thank you. Six yeas, 5 nays.
Okay, Madame Kuzi's motion has been voted on. Madam Clerk, are we now concluding the first part, and we will now suspend because we got to exit this part and then log into no.
Mr. Morrissey, we are currently in public. We'll be remaining in public for the second portion of this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk, for that clarification.
Mr. Morrissey?
So we don't have, yes?
Sorry, Ms. Cirillo has her hand raised.
I wonder if I could request a break, and then if we could get some information on how people will be recognized in the room versus online, how we're going to coordinate that for the rest of this meeting. That would be appreciated, but I'd like to take a break for 2 minutes just to get that information.
Okay, I will suspend for a few minutes while I consult with the clerk. Thank you. committee business in public. So I will ask the clerk to advise me who had their hand up.
Ms. Kusi has her hand raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Madame Kusi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to applaud the committee for making the decision to go in public to have this discussion. I just think it's so very important that our constituents and that Canadians see that we have the issues which are facing this nation firsthand at mind, and that we are here ready to take those interests to heart and to plan our studies. Mr. Chair, certainly we, the Conservatives, as did many other members of this team, submit many good motions. I see so many fantastic ideas here. I'm very excited about all of them, frankly. And it would be very difficult for this group to prioritize how we will study what we will do. But I thought I think a good tone to start off our studies and to start off the conversations that we are going to have would be avec la motion de Madame Chabot.
Madame Chabot's motion that the committee invite the minister. The interpreter is sorry, but doesn't have the motion, and so that all the ministers could be invited, because according to me, it will be an excellent opportunity to know what the minister's priorities are. I think we should have an opportunity to have a conversation with the minister on the priorities of the government, because we know that we're here until the end of June. So it would be a good start, after which, because I think we could have a conversation about other motions. So I think we should start with a motion inviting ministers to appear. Discussion. Monsieur le Président, est-ce qu'on pourrait me présenter la motion à nouveau?
J'ai un point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
On a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, étant donné que nous sommes...
Mr. Chair, since it is a point of order.
Je réponds. Excusez, parfois j'ai la traduction en retard.
Oui, ben ça fait partie.
Sometimes it takes time. I think it would be interesting to see with the clerk how we can function better in a hybrid committee when the chair cannot see what's going on. So could we discuss how the chair could be told how to, or whether the clerk could be telling the chair how to recognize people who are in the room? Second, I may be the only Francophone in this room. It is extremely difficult to have a translation when I have the English sound. So if we could lower the sound in the room, it would probably be much easier for me to listen to the translation. So, Madam Clerk and Mr. Chair, I think it would facilitate our discussions. So that was my point of order.
I just wanted to reiterate the same issue that the previous member just indicated. We're getting the translation, both the sounds. So if we could fix that and make it a lot easier to understand.
I agree. Thanks for raising that. On my screen, are we getting that clarified, Madam Clerk?
I will speak to the services right now about that matter.
Okay, let's suspend for 2 minutes while we're let's.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair? It's
yes,
Madam Zerlo. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I raised my hand almost immediately after Madame Cusi before any hands went up on the screen, but there was no procedure in place of how to recognize speakers at the time.
Madam Clerk.
The decision is yours. I have Ms. Zawilla as third when I noticed her, but the decision is yours, Mr. Chair. I have Ms. Kuzi, Madam Shabat, Mr. Rillo,
Monsieur le Président, ma main est élevée dès le...
Mr. Chair, my hand was raised at the beginning of the session.
Madame Shabat, then to Madame Zarello, Madam Clerk.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Ms. Kuzi, for tabling this motion that we tabled, actually, at the blog. So we want to hear the ministers. We want to hear them about their mandate letters. Mandate letters that were published a little while after the speech from the throne. And in the mandate letters, there are very important priorities for ministers. And what you suggest, Ms. Kuzi, is the following, so that first we would hear from ministers about their mandate letters, and I totally agree with you. So I agree with my motion and the way you presented it.
Thank you. I just so we're clear, Madam Clerk, so if there's no further discussion on the motion, we have to deal with the motion that has been moved, that is currently on the floor. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Ms. Chabot has moved the motion. The floor is now open for debate. Ms. Martinez-Ferrara has raised her hand in terms of the debate for the next debate on the motion.
Madame Ferrara, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a question regarding my colleague's motion. So does she have an idea about the timeline? Because right now, there are many motions that are being discussed. I believe that we could do many studies. I think it's important to hear from ministers, to hear about their mandate letters, but we could also read their mandate letters, and then during other studies, we could ask them questions about that. But right now, perhaps we could have 1 hour per minister per mandate. So if we do that, it's 2 committee meetings, 2 full committee meetings. So I wonder, how can we be the most efficient? I'm thinking about all of our studies. So I would like to hear my colleagues on that. Should we take 2 full meetings to hear from 4 ministers for 1 hour each? So that's a question I'm asking.
Who is next on the speaking order, and we are debating the motion.
Mr. Coteau is next on the list on the debate of the motion of Ms. Kuzi. Madam Chabot.
Mr. Coteau?
I will remove my name for now.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you identify the next speaker
Madame Chabot,
on the motion?
Madame Chabot est prochaine.
Madame Chabot. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So Ms. Kuzi said that this motion should be a priority. So she said that we should look at this motion first. We should hear from ministers on their mandate letters first before we start any other study. I just wanted to make sure I understood her intent. So I just want to clarify this, and if it's that, I agree with what Ms. Kuzi said, being that we would first hear from ministers on their mandate letters, and this would take our 2 next meetings. So I think we'll have 15 weeks of parliamentary work until June. So I believe we have time to do that, and it gives us time also to start other studies. But first, we should hear from ministers. I just want to clarify that it was the intent of Ms. Kuzi. So for next 2 meetings, we would hear from ministers. Thank you.
Continuing debate, Madam Clerk, is there another speaker? Mr. Genereux, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madame Chabot, for the motion. I think Ms. Martinez-Ferrara's motion is, I don't know if it's an amendment, an official amendment, or more, maybe just more for us. I think it's a smart adoption. I haven't been here long, Mr. Chair, but I think in the 6 years I've been here, it's always been nice to be able to have the ministers show up at the beginning of when we begin committees, so we're all essentially on the same page of where the ministers are coming from. It gives us an hour with each minister to go and propose those key questions that we want to have answered. And ultimately, I think for the first two meetings, that's a good course of action. That's my opinion, Mr. Chair.
Madam Clerk, is there any other committee
Mr.
members
Coteau
wish?
and Madam Shabbat still have their hand raised in that order.
Mr. Coteau?
Hand is now lowered, sir.
Okay. Madame Shabbat, you had your hand raised?
Oui. Yes, Mr. Chair. Is because I asked a question to Ms. Kuzi. So I want to make sure I understood what she wanted. So I am tabling the motion. I tabled this motion. So I am suggesting I am tabling this motion. There was no timeline in my motion. But Ms. Kuzi said that this should be a priority. So we should meet with ministers to hear them on their mandate letters. So it should be our priority. We should hear them during our next meetings. Is it her intent? And if so, will Ms. Kuzi table an amendment to include a timeline?
Wait.
Yes. If not, I could table an amendment. But it was just a question I was asking to Ms. Kuzi. Who tabled my motion first?
Madam Clerk, we're still on Madame Shabbat's motion, and
I would like to
I do
clarify,
not believe.
Ms. Kuzi, are you moving an amendment to the motion of Madam Shabbat?
Yes, I am.
Yes, because Madame Shabbat cannot amend her motion.
1 hour with each minister.
Okay. Yes, I'm moving to amend Madame, excuse me, Chabot's motion to 1 hour with each minister over the next two meetings.
Okay.
Is that adequate? Okay. Then how are...
It's your amendment, Madame Kuzi.
Why? Mm-hmm.
Madam Clerk, we have the amendment from Madame
Mr.
Kuzi.
Chair,
Yes,
may we have a moment to speak for a moment?
sure. Committee, I'm going to suspend for 2 minutes while I consult with the clerk so that we're clear on the motion and amendment, so everybody's clear. So we'll suspend for 2 minutes.
Ms. Kuzi was looking at the original motion, and in the motion, it already explains that they're looking for the ministers to appear for 1 hour each before the committee. It is already included in the original motion as moved by Madame Chabot.
So therefore, the amendment would not be in order.
Mm-hmm. You are correct, Mr. Chair. We're just looking. Next on the speaking list right now is Ms. Zerillo.
Madame Zerillo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to speak on it, but I'm going to wait to hear exactly what's been decided on the amendments. I haven't seen it at all. I've only heard it on the floor. I haven't seen the amendment myself.
Kuzi would like to speak next.
Madam Clerk, could you explain, because it's my understanding there's no amendment on the floor.
No, there was no amendment. Ms. Kuzi will be taking the floor. Madam Chabot has her hand raised, but Ms. Kuzi in the room is also looking to speak, and her name is on the speaking list as well.
And who's in first order, Madame Chabot?
Well, I think
Madame
I still have the
Kuzi?
floor. Mr. Chair.
Who am I hearing from, Madam Clerk?
Is Ms. Zerillo is next?
Yeah, I have the floor, right? So, Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that Madame Chabot has a motion. Madame Kusi brought the information about the motion to the floor first. Then Madame Chabot spoke to the motion and put her motion on the floor, moved her motion on the floor. Then Madame Kusi wanted to put some timing around that motion, which is the information that I'm waiting for, that I was under the impression was an amendment. So I'm waiting for that information to come officially, or I can continue to debate just Madame Chabot's motion that was on the floor with no timing. Is that clear? And I apologize for this, but it's because we have MPs in different locations. We have conversations that are going on. I really need to understand the process of what we are discussing right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madame Zerillo, and you're quite correct to get that clarification. I would ask the clerk to again clarify for Ms. Zerillo and the committee where we're at.
Mr. Chair, Madame Chabot did move her original motion in regards to inviting the ministers to appear before the committees on their mandate letter. And the motion stated that was to appear for 1 hour each before the committee to explain their mandate letters. Ms. Kuzi did speak about a possible amendment about having them appear for 1 hour each, but it was already in the original motion.
Okay, are you clear, Madame Zerillo?
So I heard some conversation about next meetings or the meeting after. So maybe
un appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
I move, Mr. Chair, on a point of order. Madam Clerk, I think that Madame Kuzi's amendment is not to get the ministers for 1 hour each. We have asked that the 4 ministers could appear for 1 hour each. What I understand in Mrs. Kuzi's amendment is to put a timeline that these ministers would be invited for the next 2 meetings. So that's why we have a timeline. That's the amendment we're looking for. It's an amendment that Ms. Kuzi should move. Monsieur, il n'y a que Madame Kuzi qui peut prendre la parole pour Madame. Oh.
Ms. Kuzi would like to her hand is next to speak.
Ms. Kuzi?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, et merci, Madame Chabot. Nous venons d'avoir.
We've just had a conversation, so I'm going to move an amendment, and I think that with this amendment, we'll be able to find a path forward.
we just had, which I hope will be appealing to all members of the committee, would be that on Thursday we have another committee business meeting in an effort to determine the priorities of the committee. But for the 3 consecutive meetings, so next week, both meetings, and then we would require another meeting after that. We have all 5 ministers. So in addition to the ones which Madame Chabot outlined here, families, children, and social development, employment, workforce development, and the inclusion of persons with disabilities, labor, seniors, we would also add housing, so that we would take the next meeting to complete the work, which unfortunately we will not have time to today, but then the following 3 meetings are dedicated to 1 hour with each of the 5 ministers, which have some level of responsibility to this committee. So I hope that this also addresses Madame Chabot's concern in regards to timeliness. So my amendment is would be following exactly what I just said. Thank you.
Madame Kuzi, I'm going to ask you to clarify, because that was a long discussion, exactly what your amendment is to Madame Chabot's motion, so that everybody is clear. What, if you could clarify what your amendment is to Madame Chabot's motion.
Okay, let me make it as that the committee invite the Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and the Inclusions of Persons with Disabilities, the Minister of Labor, the Minister of Seniors, and the Minister of Housing to appear for 1 hour each before the committee. Let me look at my calendar here. Prior to February 18th, to explain their mandate letters.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzi.
Thank you.
Madame Clerk, are you clear on the amendment?
I will just repeat it, that the committee invite the Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and the Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities, the Minister of Labor, the Minister of Seniors, and the Minister of Housing to appear for 1 hour each prior to February 18th before the committee to explain their mandate letters.
Okay, if there's no discussion on the amendment, I will call
Ms. Zarillo
for
has her hand up.
Madame Zarillo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have an amendment to the amendment, or a sub-amendment. And the reason that I'm bringing this is that Madam Kuzi mentioned around the opportunity to do prioritization of studies. I wanted to share that in my community, a 12-year-old took their life in my community. A 16-year-old overdosed in a public bathroom in my community. I came to this committee today to do business of the committee to prioritize studies. I want to hear from the ministers as much as anybody else does, and I will support Madam Kuzi's motion to get the ministers here. We need to hear from them. They need to know that what we're hearing from our communities just as much as we need to hear from them. But I'm asking for this, a sub-amendment, that we find time to sit together in a collaborative manner as a group of individuals that support people in our ridings. Families that are hurting, families that are losing family members, because they don't have the privilege that we have to sit here and try to find clips to put out on social media. If a child passes away in my community this week because we have decided that we are going to sit around this table and try to get the ministers here, when we just had an hour of very, very informative information on EI, I will be so upset. I came to Ottawa to support families, people, singles, to get them the support they need after 2 years of being stuck in their homes, not loving their families, not hugging their mothers, their fathers. They haven't had a funeral, a wedding. We have people, I was afraid to walk to work today. I'm a member of Parliament and I was afraid to walk to work today. I had to phone a number to say, is it safe for me to enter the street today to walk to Wellington? I am over this discussion. I would like to move an amendment that we decide on the prioritization of the studies so that the staff can get to work on the information and the studies that matter to people. And then I am 100% on side to support every single minister that ever wants to come to this committee. But I cannot go home to my riding and hear of another child dying. On Thursday, a woman was stabbed to death in the parking lot beside mine. And I had to speak to my staff and say, are you okay? Did you have an incident when you went down in the parking lot last night? The RCMP will be visiting us today for footage of our camera. Too many women have died over these 2 years, stuck in abusive situations, in abusive relationships, no way to move out of their homes. I'm not saying that's what happened with the young mother that was stabbed to death in my strip mall where my constituency office is. And today I have left my staff and my community to come here to fight for them.
Madame
So
Zarrillo.
that's my amendment that I'm moving. If we could please just, the sub-amendment to Madam Cusi is that if we could prioritize a meeting to discuss and prioritize the motions that are already on the floor for studies so that staff can get working. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madame. Madame Clerk, is that a sub-amendment to the amendment currently under discussion? I don't believe.
Ms. Cusi also has the floor, Mr. Chair. I think she wants to speak to it.
Yes,
Madame Cusi?
Thank you, Chair. I have great understanding and compassion for the topics the member from Port Moody, Coquitlam is referencing. And I think we can accommodate her care and her concern for her constituents. I think we can do it. I think we can do it formally as a sub amendment, or we can agree that we will have the 5 ministers here by the 18th, as is outlined in the motion, with the understanding that this Thursday, our next meeting this Thursday, where I hope I'll be able to appear safely again, we can have that discussion of business priorities, that we make that are recognizing the ministers are an absolute priority and will begin coming next week. We can make Thursday the priority day to discuss this. So I feel we can do that outside of a sub-amendment with an agreement amongst us. But if Madame Zarrillo would feel more comfortable, then perhaps she might want to suggest adding the specific date of and that we have the before the 18th, leaving February 3rd as a discussion of priorities for the committee. So that would be my suggestion. My understanding is this my amendment includes the consideration of what Madame Zarrillo is suggesting in her sub-amendment. But if she would like to entrench it with a sub-amendment within my amendment to Madame Chabot's motion, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Cusi. I would like, before we conclude, that we vote on the sub-amendment put forward by Madame Zarrillo.
Ms. Martinez-Ferrada had her hand up, Mr. Chair.
Madame Ferrada.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify what Ms. Cusi just said. Yes, perhaps we could vote on her sub-amendment to make sure that we will have committee business on Thursday so that we can talk about our priorities regarding our studies. I just want to reassure my colleague that it is the committee's intent, so we could vote on this sub-amendment and then vote on the amendment and then adopt the motion.
Chair, could I just receive clarification regarding the sub-amendment from Ms. Cirillo, please? Just to make sure I get the wording. Could you repeat the sub-amendment, please?
Thank you very much.
Madame Cirillo?
That the prioritization of the studies, the motions that present the studies, happen on Thursday. And I'm just looking at the date. At our meeting on Thursday, February 3rd.
Madam Clerk, is the sub-amendment in order?
It is. She's added it to the amendment. So I currently have that Ms. Cirillo has added the sub-amendment that prioritize the studies that will happen on prioritize the list of studies on Thursday, February 3rd. And
that's the sub-amendment to the amendment of Ms. Kuzi on the main motion of Madame Chabot.
Yes.
Okay. If there's no further questions from the floor, we will go to a recorded vote on the sub-amendment put forward by Madame Cirillo. Madame Clerk?
Mr. Long.
Look, I very much appreciate and respect MP Cirillo's comments. Very, very much. I'll be supporting.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Long?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Mr. Coteau?
In favor.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen?
Yes.
Madame Martinez Ferrada?
Oui.
Ms. Kuzi?
In favor.
Mr. Generou?
In favor.
Mr. Benson?
In favor.
Mr. Ruff?
In favor.
Madame Chabot?
Tout à fait en accord.
Ms. Cirillo? 11 yeas, 0 nays.
Sub-amendment is carried. We'll now move to vote on the amendment of Ms. Kuzi.
In favor.
I'll take the lead, Mr. Chair. Mr. Long? Can you repeat that, Mr. Long?
In favor.
In favor?
Yes.
Mr. Coteau?
In favor.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen?
Yes.
Madame Martinez Ferrada?
Oui.
Ms. Kuzi?
This is my moment. In favor.
Mr. Generou?
In favor.
Mr. Benson?
In favor.
Mr. Ruff?
In favor, and Chair, I suggest you just seek an unanimous support on the final vote.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you.
Madame Chabot?
Pour.
Ms. Cirillo? Yes. 11 yeas, 0 nays.
Now, Madam Clerk, we are voting on the main motion put forward by Madame Chabot as amended. Would you conduct a recorded vote?
Mr. Long?
In favor.
Mr. Coteau?
In favor.
Mr. Collins?
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen?
Yes.
Madame Martinez Ferrada?
Oui.
Ms. Kuzi?
In favor.
Mr. Generou?
In favor.
Mr. Benson?
In favor.
Mr. Ruff?
In favor.
Madame Chabot?
Pour.
Ms. Cirillo?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will adjourn the meeting as it is past the hour. Thank you, committee members, for your indulgence, discussion, and Looking forward to see you on Thursday. Meeting adjourned.